Jesus. Just realized that all of my characters got me looking like the Destiny Power Rangers again. Hello everyone, my name is TheMadScorpyon and welcome to a video going over all of the guns that Datto could have never gotten me to delete out of my vault. So if you've been keeping up with recent news, basically Bungie said they are no longer going to be sunsetting any weapons. Anything legacy would have the power caps removed just because of a workaround that was possible with legacy gear and a new power system they're implementing. So they figured why not just unleash the chain and let it loose, because there's no point. There would have been lots of coding, I imagine, so they figured they want us to have fun. And, of course, in the past many years, Datto Vault Cleaning LLC has been going throughout many other content creators' vaults and basically helping them get rid of the stuff that, at the time, didn't have any extra use. It was literally just vault space. But now I'm going to show you why I have over 500 things in my vault and maybe only 200 of them are usable. So starting right off the bat, this is two things I kept from OG Gambit. We have a Hazard of the Cast, which was a very solid rifle for the time. I definitely enjoyed it. It's a simple combination from back in the day. This wasn't by chance even like a god roll that I kept. It was the triple tap rampage roll that I just decided to keep, and it turned out it had solid enough perks, but I just kind of went on from there. Same thing with Parcel of Stardust. This one actually has a soft spot in my heart because this was the shotgun I was using the first time I got a 7th column in Crucible.
Their lead has diminished. Keep it up. Zone C lost. 3 minutes left. 2 for 1. Triple down. Fantastic work. You're unstoppable. Phenomenal. 7 column.
And yeah, even though I shot down how much I hate Crucible, yeah, at some point I actually managed a 7th column of all things. So yeah, there's that. Now, a bunch of these were old Last Wish weapons that were the originals back from Forsaken when they were officially sunset. Actually, I forget. Actually, no, these weren't sunset. I think some of them were just the very old one. Like, I know that's the old curated. This was one that I just had access to because and you can tell these are the OGs because they have 3 barrel perks. And this is, of course, is going to be one of those things I'm going to be using most. Is my Duke Mark 44 back from ages ago. Literally, I didn't give it thought until this video, or at least the sunsetting thing happened. Because every now and again when I go on Charlemagne and do the most used weapons of all time, this, I'm not even kidding, was at number 1 until maybe 2 seasons ago. And it had been sunset for 3 years prior. That's a sign either how much I love this thing or how little I'd stick to one thing. But I digress. A pretty solid roll. All the great mag perks, a little faster reload, a little bit better AP, and then ricochet rounds, of course, and then just a variety of sights. Handling Masterwork isn't the best, but it is still a very solid hand cannon. Then we get into some of the ones that I keep all the time and wish would return is the Black Armory weapons. Now, I don't have a lot from that day still, and unfortunately I can't restore their Radiance, which sucks because that was actually a cool effect. But yeah, Spiteful Fang was actually a very favored lightweight bow by me. I didn't use the other lightweights that existed many a time, but there was just something about that seemed a bit more effective. And then, of course, Classic Blast Furnace, which is recently restored, although it is a lesser version of itself, just because it's the Brave version, and they won't have the variety of Black Armory scopes, which Bungie has shot down the idea of re-implementing scopes, because that was just an extra thing they had to code that no one really cared about. That's a lie, because I care about the scopes, because the Black Armory had some of the cleanest looking scopes of all time. And then we also have 2 of the threat levels, which I don't know why I kept both of these officially. I even did some extra cleaning. But this was a pretty solid rapid-fire frame shotgun, exclusive drop from the Scourge of the Past raid. It was pretty solid. This is the curated, if I recall. But yeah, there isn't much to speak about that. Then let's see. This Night Watch was brought back. This was also brought back. Old Imperial Decree, so we're going to have to talk about that. Then, of course, the Stain 14 weapons. Now, if you looked at my vaults maybe a year ago, there would be a lot more of all these weapons. After the Empyrean Foundation and how easy it was to farm, there was at least 5 or 6 of the old Saint 14 weapons from Season of the Dawn at a time. And Steel Feather at the time was a pretty solid auto rifle. I think it was one of the few of its kind because rapid fires didn't really exist back then. Really nifty. Same with Patron of... Oh, whoops, accidentally equipped that. But Patron was another one of those ones. Lightweight. It felt good in the shot. Maybe it was a little lower damage, but it did have some nifty perks that came out of it. Well performing. Probably a better for Crucible setup. And an old favorite, the Old Fashioned, which this was something that I didn't realize was Sunset officially, just because it's such a generic gun. It didn't seem like one that should have been Sunset just because it could live at the gunsmith for no problem. But, you know, that's how it goes. And, of course, Perfect Paradox, the weapon that Saint 14 gives us that we give him. Another rapid-fire frame shotgun, and then Kinetic slot, again, a pretty solid choice. I didn't end up using it a lot except for feeling like Saint 14 and just wanted to pull it out and give it a few rounds down the chamber. Let's see, then we have everything from Season 10, which was at some point re-released. Same with all the Trials gear. Let's see, Dire Promise, that stuff all held through. Then new raid gear, Season 11, Season 12, let's see. I think at this point we have actually gotten to everything that is still in service, let's say, for the Kinetics. I know a few, there is a few of these things that did return. Silicon and Aroma made a return. The Hung Jury left and then came back at one point. Let's see. Multimod. Well, no, Multimod just got introduced. It never was Sunset, unfortunately. But yeah, that is actually pretty much all of the Kinetics that I think, aside from the... Well, actually, there is a few of things that I'll get back to once we get to that point. But yeah, these were returned. See, Yorokanji's new version, that was a new thing. This is a remake. Yeah, that was pretty much all the Kinetics up front that I had. So, getting to the thing I probably have more of is the energy weapons. So, right on the front, we have my old version of Mindbender's Ambition. This one was the curated drop from that Nightfall. It isn't the best. Rifle barrel's good, steady rounds is not great, but at the same time, this was something that I just used constantly on my Hunter. It wasn't that it was even OP. I think my Parcel of Stardust was a little more consistent on that same line and was pretty much the same exact shotgun. I just really like this shotgun. There is nothing to say about it. And of course, there is the Long Goodbye, which is another Nightfall drop from the Insight Terminus, the Kargan Strike, which this was the one that I used a lot on Scourge of the Past for the role of, I think, breaking the shield generators off the top of my head. This was a sniper I used a lot. It's rangefinder mainly and rapid hit and just solid enough performance. And then, of course, one of the most, let's just say, iconic auto rifles, the Ringing Nail. While not talked about a lot, this was a very, very well-performing auto rifle back in the day. Dragonfly is good, Rampage good, of course, a variety of good perks on it, good scopes. It performed pretty admirably in its time. Same thing with Tempered Dynamo. Now, damn it, I keep clicking the wrong button. I wasn't the biggest fan of fusion rifles, but this had some of the best rolls that I've seen and was one of the more consistent hitting fusion rifles. Plus, it just looks really good, even for fusion rifles, and they typically just look meh. Then we also have the Kindled Orchid, which is a hand cannon that I think I kept at least 3 of them, maybe 2, but it had one of the craziest perks for its time. Let's see, in this one, this is one of the few things that could get kill clip Rampage, and it would actually be noticeable, I think. Like, of course, Transfiguration could get the 2-shot kills and everything, but, you know, hand cannons were life back during that time. And No Feelings, another Black Armory one. A scout rifle that I constantly wanted to look for the God roll, but just constantly didn't get all the pieces to it. Again, customizable scopes on a long-range scout rifle went a long way for just long-range engagements, gambit invasions, that sort of thing. Then we also have Tatara Gaze, which is one of those snipers, again, that I actually kept up with, even though I'm not the biggest sniper fan, at least during this time. I do have a few clips of one on my old Xbox hard drive of one-man armies using this thing. It was really sleek looking and had a really cool sound, plus you could actually kind of see how it works through a little gap in the thing right there, but not really. Then moving on, let's see, some of the old Pinnacle weapons that I have. Oxygen SR3. This one was a favorite of mine because this was Hung Jury before Hung Jury and was just a really solid scout rifle. Its perk is not exactly Pinnacle compared to some of the other ones. It's basically a Dragonfly, but if you hit him a few more times, the Dragonfly does more damage. I used the crap out of this thing for quite a while just because it was a consistent scout. That's really all there is to it. And of course, the infamous Recluse, which even I had to use back in the day occasionally, was solid enough that I have more kills on it, but then again, I think this is one of those things that just sat there doing numbing, mindless day 1 raids, so the kill counter is, of course, higher. Then we have old versions of Last Man Standing, those have again returned, and we have one of the relics of the Gaul run raid, Crown of Sorrow. This is some of the guns that I think people will be excited for to get a rebrand, because back during the day, they were solid enough, although they were all of odd archetypes like high impact scouts, machine guns. The shotgun was lightweight, which I don't think exactly took off back then. But yeah, there was a few weapons that, while visually they look gross, they had some really nasty rolls, so I think people will be excited that those come back, if anything. And then we had Garden of Salvation. That is, of course, still here. It is not sunset. It was brought forward. And, of course, more of the moon weapons. But then we get into some of the points that I'm most excited for. Season of Dawn, again, with things like Martyr's Retribution, one of the original wave-frame grenade launchers that was sunset for reasons that only Bungie knows. But then my personal favorite that I'm excited for, alongside Dig Mark 44, is Python. This was my favorite shotgun to run for a very long time. The extended mag plus overflow meant you could fit this thing like 12, 14 rounds in the tube, unlimited shot, aggressive frame, and 1-2 punch. I adored this shotgun, and I am so happy I'm going to be able to use it again. Same thing with Trophy Hunter. This was the gun that, if you don't believe me, I'll just let you not believe. This was the gun that let me out-damage double slug anarchies. I'm not even exaggerating when I say that. This was a solid beast of a weapon. Well, let me specify. Out-damage double slug anarchies on Tanix the Abomination. It was just that good of a weapon. Then, of course, we have a flash through of all the old Mercury Prophecy weapons, which, visually looking, was some of the most iconic. If performance-wise, they were some of the not-so-iconic. Like this one, Dragonfly and Zen Moment, sounds amazing. But this one had such bad recoil direction, I'm not even joking. It was really hard to use this one. Plus, it seemed like it hit a little bit lax when it came to pure stopping power. But then, one of those pistols that looks amazing and performs kind of amazing in comparison, Traveler's Judgment. But, you know, that's all of that. But from that point, I think we actually get to the area where everything is up to date. I'm pretty sure Season of Dawn was the last season of anything that was sunset, which is unfortunate considering everything else. Pretty much everything else through here has been brought back. Let's see. I don't think Splicer weapons were ever vaulted. Let's see. Wolf Tone. I think at one point Prophecy, or, well, obviously the Trials of the 9 Gear. I never played it back in the day. I literally had nothing to show for it. But yeah, if anything, if they didn't bring it back, that would probably be still vaulted. But then we get into the Heavies tab. Some of the Heavies I've kept over the years. So plenty of exotics. This was an old Zenobia D that was my Riven killer. The combination of field prep and some of the rolls of my Hunter meant I had 10 rockets I could shove down Riven's throat. And this was before the rework to rockets to make them a little more different. This was doing just as much damage as Bad Omens at the time. So yeah, this was my Riven killer. I never took it off. Speaking of Bad Omens, actually, that would be this one, which I think unless it, well, it's a weird sunset, because it's still active, but you can't find it anywhere in the game, I don't think. Like, even from Drifter, even if you went to his Legacy thing, I don't think you can get this back. I might be wrong about that, but I digress. And then, of course, more of the Black Armory stuff. The classic Hammerhead. This was one that I kept. Dynamic Sway and Mulligan. Really good for consistency. I forget if this was PvE or PvP. But then, of course, there is the other Hammerhead, which was basically the In the Pit one. The I am surrounded to get a damage buff, and I'm surrounded and I get a stat buff. This was, well, there is no better way to say it. Yeah, In the Pit. And, of course, a Black Armory Striker's Sure Hand, which is a nifty-looking sword. Although, at the same time, this was the classic meme of I need to reload my sword material. So, and then another one I mentioned, Doomsday, which compared to some of the rolls on the new Edge Transit, this is something that is going to be pretty damn nifty. Well, maybe not nifty, but you know what I mean. It's just one of those guns that had a really good roll but never really shined right. So hopefully after all of these changes and buffs to everything, you can do that. Now, there was actually some sunset armor, too. I forget what, but I legitimately didn't hang on to any of that sunset armor, so, But at the same time, just to give you all an idea of what is some of the stuff that we'll be able to bring back, pretty much anything that you can recall from these things that is a static roll that has these logos on it, they will be light unbound. So if you wanted anything classic from the days of early Destiny, like the original Ghost Primus, the original Midnight Coup, the Braytech Winterwolf, like I said, anything from the first 3 seasons of Destiny that had static rolls, or anything Pinnacle that you had access to, like, let's see, as well. Anything in the Monument to Lost Lights here in the Legacy Gear tab, this is all Pinnacle weapons and old Ritual weapons. These are all up to date, so you don't have to worry about them. But all the Crucible weapons right here, if you don't have one that you can pull out, anything from the Gambit weapons right here, the 21% Delirium is an amazing machine gun that I'll be pulling back out. But also the last 2 things that haven't been restored in the Nightfalls, right here. Oh, excuse me. If you want anything from this tab to use come freaking Final Shape when Light gets unbound, I recommend picking up. Yes, Luna's Howl and Not Forgotten will have a rework to Magnificent Howl, but Not Forgotten won't be making it, so it will still be the classic old version. So if you want one, grab one. You'll be able to use it. Same for Red Risk's Broadsword. I think this is the only pulse rifle that can really compete with Messenger in the field. So if you've never been able to get an Adept Messenger, now is the time, because you can just get this really solid roll pretty much comparatively. And of course, the classic version of Mountaintop and Recluse, if you can't get it, and then things like Revoker, which haven't been restored, but Unchained will probably become a new meta once again in Trials, just because of the classic return shot thing. But yeah, that is pretty much all I wanted to go through, is my vault that Datto would have been so annoyed at. And let me put it this way. If I hadn't done a little bit of cleaning, it would have looked a lot worse across the last 2 years. Legitimately, the only reason I cleaned it is because I was running out of space, and even with 100 vault spaces coming with Final Shape, I was still paranoid about running out of space. But with that, my name is TheMadScorpyon. I thank you for watching. My Datto, you can't do anything to my vaults. I will drown in my old gear and make it useful. I'll see you in the next video.